Have you ever had one of those days when you did almost nothing? No work, no stress, no effort, yet by evening you feel completely drained? It doesn't make sense at first. How can you be exhausted if you barely used any energy? Psychology and neuroscience have a very clear answer. Feeling tired is not only about physical effort. In fact, most of the fatigue you experience comes from processes inside your brain, your emotions, your attention, your environment, and even your thoughts. So if you've ever wondered why you feel worn out even on easy days, you're about to understand what's really happening behind the scenes. 1. Brain energy and mental load. Modern neuroscience reveals that even in your most inactive moments, your brain is quietly consuming massive amounts of energy. Research from the National Institute of Mental Health showed that the brain uses roughly 20% of your total energy just to sustain the default mode network, the system active when your mind drifts, wanders, or loops through thoughts. This means that even when your body is resting, your brain is burning glucose at a high rate, functioning like an engine idling at maximum speed. You may think you're relaxing, but internally your mind is still working overtime. And on days when you don't engage in structured tasks, that mental engine often spins even faster. Without clear direction or external focus, your thoughts tend to wander toward worries, hypothetical situations, unresolved tasks, social comparisons, or emotionally charged memories. Psychologists call this unconstrained cognition, and studies show it significantly increases neural activity, especially in regions involved with stress and emotional processing. So instead of shutting down, your brain becomes noisier. This kind of internal chatter drains mental energy rapidly, leaving you feeling heavy and fatigued even though you never physically exerted yourself. The problem intensifies when passive stimulation gets involved, like scrolling social media, binge-watching videos, or switching between apps. These activities trick your brain into thinking it's resting, but they actually demand frequent microbursts of attention. Every swipe, notification, and new piece of content forces your brain to refocus, which spikes cognitive load. Over time, this constant low-level stimulation exhausts your mental resources without offering any real recovery. So by the end of the day, you're not tired because your body did too little, you're tired because your brain has been running a non-stop marathon of thoughts, emotions, and information processing that never gave you a true break. 2. Decision fatigue and passive overstimulation. Another major, science-backed contributor is decision fatigue, the gradual depletion of your mental energy from making too many choices. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's well-known research showed that every decision you make, even the tiny ones, drains a little bit of willpower and cognitive strength. And ironically, on so-called lazy days, you actually make far more micro-decisions than normal, hopping between apps, picking what video to watch next, choosing meals, replying to messages, deciding whether to scroll more, and evaluating endless online options. Each small choice feels insignificant on its own, but collectively they exhaust your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus and self-control. What makes this worse is how digital platforms are designed. Streaming services, social media feeds, and endless recommendation algorithms bombard you with novelty. Neuroscientists have found that this constant stream of new stimuli triggers repeated dopamine spikes, tiny bursts of anticipation and reward. But instead of energizing you, this rapid dopamine cycling overwhelms your brain's reward system. It's like revving your engine in neutral. Lots of activity, no meaningful output. You're constantly deciding, reacting, and processing, even though it looks like you're doing nothing. And because these activities never allow your brain to settle into a calm, restorative state, your mind doesn't get the deep mental rest it actually needs. Unlike focused work or structured tasks, passive stimulation keeps your cognitive system in a low-grade state of arousal. You're not fully engaged, but you're not fully resting either. That in-between state is deceptively draining. So by the end of the day, you're mentally wiped out, not because your body exerted effort, but because your brain has been navigating a maze of micro-decisions and rapid-fire dopamine hits that slowly wear down your energy reserves. Before continuing, if you are a content creator or want to start making money on YouTube, check out Gia Media. They take care of everything for you, including scripting, editing, titles, and thumbnails. It's 16 videos per month for only $480. You just bring the idea, and they grow your channel for you. If you're interested, leave a comment and I'll send you the link. 3. Emotional fatigue and stress hormones. Psychology research consistently shows that emotional fatigue can drain you far more than physical exertion. Even on days when you didn't do anything, your brain may have been working overtime beneath the surface, processing stress, uncertainty, unresolved conflicts, or even subtle feelings of loneliness. Unlike physical tasks, emotional processing doesn't have clear start and end points, so your mind can stay in a continuous loop without you realizing it. This internal strain quietly consumes your mental energy, leaving you feeling drained even when your body barely moved. Studies from Stanford University highlight how chronic low-level stress keeps cortisol slightly elevated throughout the day. This isn't the kind of intense stress that causes panic. It's the subtle, background tension that lingers in your mind. Worries about the future, financial concerns, relationship confusion, or general life dissatisfaction. Elevated cortisol disrupts several brain functions, especially those tied to focus, motivation, and emotional regulation. Over time, this biochemical imbalance creates mental fog, heaviness, and a sense of being on edge, even in calm environments. Your brain ends up fighting a silent battle all day long. Emotional processing also occupies the same cognitive resources you need for clarity, creativity, and decision-making. When you're internally overloaded, your brain automatically shifts energy away from higher-level thinking and directs it toward managing your emotional state. That's why you might feel unmotivated, unfocused, or unusually tired despite the absence of physical effort. It isn't laziness, it's emotional labor happening behind the scenes. In many cases, this type of exhaustion is actually a sign that your brain is trying to protect you, working hard to maintain balance in ways you can't see. 4. Lack of structure and reduced dopamine regulation. Paradoxically, having no structure in your day can make you even more tired, not less. Neuroscientists explain that the brain is built to follow patterns, predictable cues that guide when to focus, when to rest, and when to take action. When those cues disappear, your dopamine system becomes dysregulated. Dopamine isn't just the reward chemical. It's the neurotransmitter that drives motivation, helps you initiate tasks, and gives you the energy to follow through. Without a routine, your brain receives no signals about what matters or what to prepare for, so it shifts into a low-effort state where everything feels harder than it should. This is why even deciding what to do next can feel strangely overwhelming on an empty day. Research on behavioral activation, a therapeutic method used to treat depression and low motivation, consistently shows that even small, structured tasks can significantly boost mental energy. Activities like planning a simple to-do list, completing one meaningful action, or stepping outside for a brief walk are proven to increase dopamine flow and stimulate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and focus. These small actions act like mental ignition switches, signaling to your brain that the day has purpose and momentum. Without them, the brain floats in a kind of cognitive limbo, where the absence of stimulation leads to mental dullness and emotional fatigue. So while an unplanned day might seem like a break, biology tells a different story. Without structure, your mind loses the anchors it relies on to stay alert and engaged. Time starts to blur, motivation drops, and you begin to feel heavier, slower, and more disconnected. This is why people often feel surprisingly exhausted after doing nothing. The brain was never guided, never activated, and never given the direction it needs to function at full capacity. Structure doesn't restrict your energy, it creates it. So if you feel tired on days when you did nothing, it's not laziness and it's not a mystery, it's biology. Your brain might be burning energy through mental noise, decision overload, emotional processing, or a lack of dopamine regulating structure. The key is to rest intentionally, not passively. Reduce endless scrolling, give your mind quiet moments, move your body lightly, set simple goals, and create small routines that anchor your day. True rest is active, not accidental. And when you learn to recharge the brain, just as you recharge the body, you stop ending the day exhausted and start ending it renewed.